Hey, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, I want to give all glory, all honor, all praises to Yahawah by Sham, Yahweh Shai, to the whole plethora of Israel. This is your brother Shema Shawan, come back with another lesson. And this lesson is regarding time, right? And if Yahweh say the same, we're going to prove that Yahweh, he doesn't even recognize time as we recognize time. Remember, Yahweh, he's outside of time, right? So we're just going to just try to, wrap our heads, around the brilliance and the omnipotence of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai. So here, let's go to Daniel chapter 7 and 9. It says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. So we see that the scriptures refer to Yahweh as the Ancient of Days. All right, let's get that right quick and understand, or just try to understand, the brilliance of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai. Right. So the term Ancient of Days appears in the book of Daniel, right? And well, what it does is the title Ancient of Days. It emphasizes uh, the eternal and timelessness of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, right? So we must understand that there's never been a time that Yahweh never existed. There's never been a time. So we just try to wrap our finite minds around that concept, and just the brilliance of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, right? So Yahweh is timeless. Okay. Um, let's go to Isaiah chapter 44. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 44. And understand, or again, try to understand, just the brilliance. There's no word for Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai. He's just a beautiful power, right? So this is Isaiah 44, and we're going to go to verse 6. It says, Thus saith the King, Yahweh, right? Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts. See, I am the first and I am the last, and besides me there is no other God. So, there's no other gods, besides Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, right? And so, what Yahweh was referring to, even in even in the understanding of Mashiach Yahweh Shai, Yahweh is the top power, right? Then you got Mashiach, okay? So we're going to see, that Yahweh, what he does is, in terms of us, man understanding time, Yahweh, he creates the heavenly luminaries. He creates the heavenly luminaries. And let's get the understanding of the term for uh, heavenly luminaries, right? So the term heavenly luminaries refers to celestial bodies such as the sun, moon, and the stars, okay? Right? Which are often seen as symbols of Yahweh's creation and divine guidance. So we're going to see that, again, that Yahweh, he creates the sun, the moon, the stars or constellations on our behalf so that we can recognize and understand time, okay? So let's go and understand, what the sun, moon, and stars are, right? They're for dispensations of time. So I'm gonna get it right quick. I'm gonna go to the blue letter, right? It's gonna be H 216. Let's get that right. So we go down to the outline of biblical uses here. Let's get it. Slocky here. Let's get it right quick.
Strong's H216. Or.
Okay. So this is referring to, Yahweh's his luminaries, which is the sun, the moon, and the stars. So when you go down to the outline of biblical usage, light of day, light of heavenly luminaries, which is the moon, sun, and the stars. So Yahweh, he creates again those heavenly luminaries on our behalf, so that we can recognize time. Okay. So let's go to Genesis chapter 1, when Yahawah sets, those luminaries in the sky on our behalf. So this is Genesis 1 and 14. It says, "And Yahawah said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs," see that? "And for seasons, and for days, and for years." So these are all dispensations of time here, so that we would understand or recognize time. Yahawah, he don't need that, right? 16, it says, "And Yahawah made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also, or the constellations." So we're going to see that all these luminaries, they, they help us to recognize time, right? In essence, okay. Let's jump down to verse 18. It says, "And to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And Yahawah saw that it was good." So here, let's go and understand, or try to understand Yahweh's creation. So we're going to start with the greater light, all right? So we're going to see what this greater light is. And so, which is the sun, right? And what, his position is in terms of, illustrating, a dispensation of time, okay? Let's go to John and get that real quick, because my Yahawah is going to refer to something, the sun, right? This is John 11, and it's going to be verse 9. John 11 and 9, it says, Yahawah answered it, "Are there not 12 hours in a day?" So we see, that the 12 hours of the sun is helping us to recognize time, okay? So that on our behalf, again, Yahawah, he don't need that, right? Yahawah is time, right? And we're going to see, that once you go so far in Yahawah's great universe, time is not needed anymore, all right? This is how brilliant Yahawah is, okay? So we see, that the sun is created, to understand, the day, and different times, within the day, okay? So now let's get the moon and understand what the moon's, what her job is, her position, and what she does. So let's go to Sirach, chapter 43, and I'm going to look at verse 6. It says, "He made the moon also to serve, see, in her season, for a declaration of times and a sign of the world." We just read all of that over in Genesis chapter 1 and 14, that Yahawah, would illustrate and give understanding, through his luminaries and what their positions are, and what they help us to understand time, okay, and recognize time. So, okay, we did the sun, we did the moon. So now we need to understand what the stars or the constellations, what they do, okay? So let's go to the book of Job and understand what the constellation of the stars, how they recognize, or how they help us to recognize, aspects of time. Let's go to Job. And this is just how brilliant Yahawah is, man. Man, Yahawah is just, oh my goodness. All praises to Yahawah Ba'asham Yahweh. So this is Job 38, right? And we're going to go to verse 31. So Job 31, 38. It's like Job 38, 31, okay? It says, "Can thou find the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion?" These are all constellations, right? 32, it says, "Can thou bring forth Meseroth in his season?" So Yahawah is showing us, say for example, if we, were in a cave and we weren't able to observe the sky for 10 years, right? And Yahawah, allowed us to come out to observe the sky for 10 years. We could look at the sky, right, and understand by the constellations what season we were in. Okay, let's finish this thing up. It says, or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons. Okay, so Yahweh's putting all those luminaries in the sky, for dispensations of time, the sun, the moon, and the stars or constellations. Okay, right. So um, Esau came up with this theory, with this garbage theory called the Big Bang Theory, which is garbage as heck. Let's kind of take a look at that, because we're going to see that you had to have something to create the bang. You know what I'm saying? So when you go and look at Esau's theory, right, which is a theory that can't be proven, the Big Bang Theory, which is completely garbage. Okay, let's get that right quick.
According to Wikipedia, the Big Bang is a physical theory that describes how the universe expanded from an initial state of high density and temperature.
Right. So, and Esau says that the universe began over 13.8 billion years ago. We don't know that. You know what I'm saying? Right. So we see, with the Big Bang Theory, it's a theory. It's unconclusive. It's somebody's opinion. Okay, but we know that Yahweh, through His beautiful Son Mashiach, created all of this. Right. So Yahweh, in essence, is the architect, and Mashiach Yahawah is the contractor. Okay, all right. So I want us to kind of understand. A term here is called the helio phase, right? The helio phase. And we're going to see that the helio phase, it's a Edomite term, but it's a part of the universe. Okay, and we're going to see that once you go so far out in the helio phase, right? It's spelled Heliopause. Once you go so far out, you're going to see the sun doesn't have any influence anymore. What do I mean by that? So in terms of how the sun has influence here on Earth, what I'm saying, for the day and night, heat, and all those perspectives. Once you go so far out, the sun doesn't have any effect anymore. In the helio phase. Okay, and so once you go so far out, right, then time is irrelevant. It's not about time anymore. It's going to be about distance. This is how brilliant Yahawah is, right? And as we understand with the helio phase, and the sun's influence stops, right? So it shows you that it's not about time anymore. The luminaries, you know, uh, you know, don't have any influence anymore, right? So you have the sun, the moon, the constellations. They don't have any influence anymore when you go so far out. You know what I'm saying? You know, and we got to understand it. So, and again, once you go so far out past the helio phase, right? We have to look at it or in terms of light years. Okay, so let's go see what a light year is, and we're going to see that a light year doesn't even involve time. A light year is about distance. So they have to, Esau, he created that term light year, so we just try to recognize and understand, just how vast the universe is. Okay, right? So let's get that right quick and understand what a light year is. So here it is, right? So this is sciencenotes.com. It's a website, right? To give the definition of what a light year. So a light year, right, is the length, that is the distance light travels in the vacuum of Earth in 1 year. So in other words, a light year is how far light travels in a year. You know what I'm saying? So Esau estimates that light travels in 1 year. Try to wrap your head around this. 5.88 trillion miles in 1 year. right? This is how fast light is. And we're going to also see that light, is the fastest, um, you know, electron, right? Um, so, we're just trying to understand exactly, just the vastness, and just the brilliance of Yahawah. So we see, that once you travel so far, from the heavenly luminaries, which is the sun, the moons, and the constellations, they don't have any effect anymore, right? So it's not even about time, right? It's not even about time anymore with Yahawah. And that's why when we started, this lesson, we had to understand that Yahawah is outside of time. And so, as I mentioned earlier, Yahawah, he don't even recognize time as we recognize time like that, okay? So now we see this light year, and the light year, we just expounded on that, just gives us, or tries, to give us, the understanding of how fast light is and how far light travels within a year. 5.88 trillion miles. Try to wrap your head around that, okay? So now um, we must understand, what light is. So let's see what light is according to Esau. We know that Yahawah, is the light of the world. I'm going to prove that earlier, a little later. So let's see what this is. Okay. All right. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Yeah, so this is the term light.
According to Merriam-Webster.com, the meaning of light is something that makes vision possible. How to use light in a sentence.
Yeah,
Synonym
so
discussion of light.
yeah, we see exactly what it is. We don't need all of that, right? So, you know, as we just understood the definition of light there, let's get that again. All right, so Slovakia, let me get that real quick. Okay, here it is. Right, right. So light, according to the co-pilot search, um, light is a electromagnetic radiation visible to the human eye, right? Um, when you can see something, or when you can see the light, right? The natural agent that stimulates sight and makes things visible. This is light. This is how brilliant Yahweh is, in terms of this time and light, what I'm saying, and just we're just trying to wrap our heads, around the brilliance of Yahawah Ba'asham and Yahushua, because we know that Mashiach, right, is light, and so we understand that light is the fastest thing in the universe. There's nothing faster than light, right? So here, let's go get that scripture and understand what light is, what light actually is. So now that was Esau's definition of light, but here, let's see what Yahawah's definition of light is. So let's go over to John chapter 8 and 12 and understand exactly what this light is. All right, John 8 and 12. Okay. John 8 and 12, it says, Then spake Mashiach Yahushua to them, saying, I am the light of the world. See that? Yahushua, he's the light of the world, right? He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. So, in summary, we understand, that Yahawah, he don't even recognize time like that. You know what I'm saying? Yahawah is outside of time. And so, we prove that, Yahawah, he placed the luminaries of the heavenly luminaries, the sun, the moon, and the constellations on our behalf so that we could recognize time, and just try to, understand a little bit of the brilliance of Yahawah Ba'asham and Yahushua. So, I pray that this lesson was edifying. Once again, I'm going to give all glory, all honor, all praises to Yahawah Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Shalom.